All right, aloha. Welcome. I'm not sure exactly how this works in terms of people like coming online to watch and tune in. So I'm not exactly sure how many people are tuning in right now. But my name is Laura Dawn. I'm going to introduce myself, and we have an incredible live artist who is partaking in this talk as well, who's going to be gracing us and blessing us with her beautiful visual art. And then I'll go into introducing Lev and Shayna, who are our presenters for today. And we're going to have a really nice, live, juicy discussion. And the topic for today is plant medicine as a rite of passage into ecological leadership. And I love this topic so much. I can't wait to dive in. So just a little bit about me. My name is Laura Dawn. I'm currently calling in from the big island of Hawaii. I just want to acknowledge this land that I'm on right now and this land that sustains my life. So much gratitude to all the Native people who have walked this land before me. I'm the host of the Psychedelic Leadership podcast. Right now, after running retreats for 10 years, I am taking a hiatus and I'm back in graduate school, getting a master's in science in a program called Creativity Studies and Change Leadership. And I'm researching the overlap and intersection between creative problem solving and psychedelics, and being trained in advanced creative problem solving facilitation for businesses, with a strong focus on cultivating leadership and ethics as people step into contributing in the psychedelic space. So that's just a little bit about me. I'll post some of my links in the chat box that everyone can access, and I'll do that for the speakers as well. So if you want to follow up and check out any of our websites, you're more than welcome to do that, or check us out on Instagram. And so Anya Amador, she is a professional artist and teacher. She primarily paints canvas art and large-scale murals. When she's not painting live on stage and curating art installations at festivals and events, she's sharing her passion for deliberate creation through public speaking. She believes that if you can get there in your mind, you can get there in your body. And that is the message she hopes to spread through all forms of art. Oh gosh, I love that. And she just mentioned also that she's painting a mural right now with a friend, Taylor Smith from Dream Weaver Designs. So she wanted to include that. So welcome to Taylor and Anya. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing. So much beauty you're creating. All right, I'm going to go into introducing our featured guests here for this conversation on plant medicine as a rite of passage into ecological leadership. And as I'm introducing Lev and Shayna, I would love to invite everyone who's tuning in and listening right now to write in the chat box, like what drew you to this talk? What are you here? What passion and inspiration is stirring within you right now, specifically related to this topic? And we're going to go into a nice live, juicy discussion. So Lev Natan, since 2010, has been serving change makers and organizational leaders as a leadership and psychedelic integration coach. Wonderful. And then Shayna Gladstone goes by she, her, is an earth-rooted leadership mentor and hip-hop and soul artist committed to building a movement of social and ecological transformation through facilitating the embodiment of our reciprocal relationship with all of life. Wow, so beautiful. I love these bios, and this just so nice to have you guys here and to connect in this way in real time. So there's a couple of people that have been writing in a lot of different things. So one attendant just said she's writing in from Mississippi River Valley. A lot of different things have been on my heart and they've brought me here. And I'd love to hear more. And I'll go back to the chat box, and the chat box is in the bottom right side for anyone who wants to type in and really engage in this connected way. And so I just want to pass the mic over to, why don't we start with you, Lev? And I'm curious, like, where are you right now? Where are you calling in from?
Thank you. Yeah, I live in Western Massachusetts in the Berkshires, the town of Great Barrington. It's a small town, and that's where I'm at. So thank you so much for being, I'm grateful to be here. I'm really grateful to be here. Thank you for hosting, and really excited to connect again with Shayna and all of you who
Shayna, where are you?
I am calling in from Oak Park, Michigan, on unceded Anishinaabe land here. And this is where I was born and raised, and happy to be back on this land of my ancestors.
Beautiful. Well, I'd love to just dive right in. So I'm so curious, what has brought you to this path in terms of really exploring this intersection between plant medicines, rites of passage, and ecological leadership? What has brought you to this culmination point?
I can jump in.
Sure.
Yeah, first, I think what I've learned on my path of being in relationship with what I call plant teachers, for me, is first to acknowledge them and to acknowledge, before I say anything, just to say thank you to these plant teachers in a humble way, that have been here on this planet for longer than I know. It's been passed down, these ceremonial traditions. My experience is being able to connect with psilocybin when I was in high school, and then a little over 10 years ago is when I was first able to participate in ceremonial traditional practices with plant medicines. And so for me, it's the plant medicine keepers, the guardians of the plant medicines that have allowed me to have this relationship. And so I just wanted to say thank you to Native people from all over the world, but particularly from North America, keepers of the peyote cactus, and South America, the ayahuasca plant. And so they've been really valuable teachers for me, in a humble way. And, things that have been in my heart for a long time that, I didn't know that I had the courage to embark on a journey of, being of service, or how do I was looking around in the world and seeing things that were really challenging for me. And I didn't know how to engage, it was very challenging. And then these ceremonial ways, they made a way for me. They opened up pathways for me to participate in a healthy way, is how I feel about it. And so it hasn't been easy. I think that's where the rite of passage piece of it comes in, is that there's work, is my experience. It's been work. And that's where I think, for me, this is the tradition of working with plants, plant teachers, versus, there's other aspects of working with psychedelics that are, more laboratory based. And for me, the plant medicine has a deep intelligence and a beingness of its own. They're beings that I have a great deal of respect for. So that's I guess where I wanted to start.
Beautiful. Thank you. Before we go to Shayna, because we were having a little bit of technical stuff around who the host is, can Lev and Shayna, can you make sure that you're on gallery view? Because I'm getting some messages from people in the audience saying that they're only seeing speaker view, which means one speaker at a time. So on your screen, you want to see all 4 speakers so that everyone can kind of get to watch this beautiful art that's happening as well. Thank you. Okay, Shayna, I'd love to hear some of your story and how this culmination point has happened for you.
Thank you. Yes, I would also love to acknowledge my ancestors and the ancestors of this land, the original Anishinaabe peoples of this land before it was colonized, and just say thank you to my grandparents all the way back and on my mother's and father's side, and just thank creator, thank all of life, water, fire, all the elements coming together that allowed me to be here today. and just say what honor and a blessing it is to be able to share in this way. You know, as Lev and I had spoke about in our little check-in call, this is the first time for me that I've really had an opportunity to talk about my own journey with plant medicines. It's been a most of my life, also since I was in high school as well. But it's sort of been like something I'm not so public about. And, you know, and yet it has been, my journey with plant medicine has been, you know, probably the most formative aspect of my life. I feel almost everything I do I can thank my work with plant medicines for everything that I know, every way that I've grown and healed and stepped into my own leadership. I can thank plant medicine for. My path also began in high school with working with mushrooms as well, and you know, mainly for me, I found working with grandfather peyote in 2014. And so that has been sort of I always say I'm in a monogamous relationship with peyote, because, you know, for me, that's really just been my main support and connection point to my life and everything that I do. And it's been, you know, just to kind of wrap up, for me, I see so much of what plant medicine has supported me in, and specifically in peyote, as far as rites of passage and ecological leadership goes, is that, you know, it has brought me to the understanding that everything revolves around the earth and water and fire and community, you know, and that there's these basic elements that, you know, this medicine and these ways of life have shown me how it can really be simple, and how we connect with the earth and how we honor all of life, and how that has taught me to just show up in my life. I could just spend my life just in gratitude. So thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. It's so funny. I also had my first high dose psilocybin experience in high school. So I think we're all in the same boat on that. And look at where we are today. I think we turned out okay. But it's interesting to see the research, you know, when we look at the actual research that's happening, that they're starting to do large scale studies with populations that have worked with psychedelics versus populations that haven't. And we actually see that nature relatedness is a huge outcome of working with psychedelics, and pro-social behavior and increases in empathy. And we're actually starting to see this in studies that are coming out, that now we know that people have not just from a sense of nature relatedness, but like they're more willing to take action for the environment. Like people who work with psychedelics actually have higher rates of like recycling, for example. So it's actual behavior that moves towards that support of ecological harmony. I'm curious, like, what other ways do you see psychedelics and sacred plant medicines specifically helping to cultivate human beings as more heart-centered leaders who are in support of the environment?
Yeah, thank you. Well, I also want to just echo what Shayna said about this being really the first time for me as well that I've, you know, spoken publicly about my my plant medicine journey. So, you know, here on the East Coast, in the Northeast, there's certainly community that I am so grateful to be a part of, and the community here is, you know, quiet about it. For whatever reason, you know, I mean, I think the reason is it's not legal all the way, you know, and so I'll just say that, and so wanted to, you know, share that sense of vulnerability that I'm feeling here, kind of, you know, walking lightly into this topic, but what we'll say on you know, and really the way I'm here is, Daniel, the facilitator of this whole conference, became my neighbor this summer, or this last fall, and we both have young children, so we've been getting to know each other. So yeah, my first real experience on Dieta down in Peru, I had a moment where the curandero, the elder, I saw him, in a different light than before. I'd seen him for a number of days, and it was during a ceremony, and he wasn't wearing all of his traditional ceremonial clothes. He was wearing these army work boots and cargo pants, and it was in the middle of the ceremony. He was doing some healing work. And I just looked over at him, and I had an insight that this wasn't just a place to go to do personal healing work, that we were being initiated. That was my experience. I'm not going to project that onto everyone that was there, but my experience was I was there to be initiated into, for better, the language that I have for it is the Earth Army. There's some sacrifices that I have to make, and each of us have to make, in order to have a certain level of commitment, because it's challenging, right? When we're living in a culture of death, culture of destruction, a culture that has destroyed intentionally the very, or intended to, and not succeeded, thank God, the very lineages that have allowed us to participate so generously in these traditions. So we're in that culture, and so the reason that I see these medicine people opening up to us is so that we can take responsibility for the change that needs to happen, to be part of the tree of life. That there's a root system that we have to grab onto and say, hey, I'm connected to the source of life, no matter how strong the winds of really destruction are blowing. And it's we're in such an intense time that I feel like sometimes the language is intense, and the ceremonies are intense, so sometimes the language needs to be intense as well. So for me, that's what the plant medicine has done for me is to show me the intensity of the situation, and particularly sitting in teepee ceremonies, which the history of those ceremonies are truly, it's a resistance experience of surviving on the reservation in Oklahoma. That's where those ceremonies began, and so I connect to that and say, hey, we're trying to survive, not only survive, but to be resisting a dominant paradigm, a dominant culture that wants to pave this over, and then to be creative in it, and not be in the us against them necessarily, but to bring creativity and beauty and love and good things and life to the fore.
Beautiful. And before we pass it to Shayna, just a real quick note. We have some people on the back end trying to figure out how to get it in gallery view so that you can see the art happening. Right now, it's only in speaker view for some reason, even though it doesn't appear that way on our end. So thanks for hanging in there. And Shayna.
Yeah, thank you for everything that you shared about your experience and how it's helped you and your stepping into your own ecological leadership, and also acknowledging the origins of the teepee ways, because that's the way, that's been the way for me. And one thing that I typically share is, for me, in ceremony, it's been like the medicine itself is like, 30%, of what is actually being given, or what the experience really is in the ceremony itself. Because for me, in my experience, it's very simple. The way that it has primed me in my ecological leadership is really with the medicine, and in these types of ceremonies, it's like, the way that we honor food is like feeling a connection to food in a way that's transcending every possible structure of knowing possible, as far as of appreciation for it, in the simplest terms of like really seeing that food and being like so grateful for it that you feel like you want to give your life for how we can continue to have food on this planet in a regenerative way going forward, and also, with the water. And it's like the connection that I have felt with the water in ceremony is like, wow, like you are God, like how do I humble myself so much so that I can serve you, and bow to it as its, as in its majesty and miraculousness, and apologize, saying sorry, to the water, saying sorry to the earth, saying sorry to for our actions as human beings, and getting down to the point where it's like, how do I live my life in accordance with that? Like, what does that look like for me on a day-to-day, to walk and talk that gratitude and that like profound respect that I have cultivated through these types of ceremonies, and I can't really compare that to another type of ceremony, because, for me, that's so much of what I've learned has come from what actually happens in the ceremony itself, as opposed to like the plant medicine itself. But I think the plant medicine has supported me in like feeling that the purity and the sincerity of that understanding, that connection that I'm experiencing, and my ability to pray as well.
Oh my gosh, I so deeply resonate with that. And I'm so grateful that you brought up that aspect around just like our connection to the earth and from a food source perspective. I think a lot of people growing up, like I grew up in the suburbs of Montreal. My relationship to food was walking up and down, fluorescent lit aisles with like packages. And I had a disordered relationship to food for years. And it was actually working with plant medicines that really help heal my relationship to food. And not just that, but like dedicating my life to holding a vision for how I can move into right relationship with my life, and following that vision, and like now living on acreage in Hawaii where I grow my own food. I practically live outside. I poop in a compost toilet. I've been living off grid for 15 years. And it's that kind of, it takes a lot of initiative. So I'm curious to know, and even like I wrote a published book about food addiction, and I wrote Mindful Eating for Dummies. That was kind of my life before coming out of the psychedelic closet and being in this space. But I think that that's like one really big key piece of like people getting into right relationship with the earth through food source is such a big piece. Now, I'm curious your thoughts on this, because I've had a lot of people express to me, well, like, that's amazing, that you followed that vision, you bought land, you made this, we built a retreat center here to provide space for people to come and heal their relationship to earth. But not everyone feels like they can take that leap of faith. So like, what do you say to the people who are like, I'm receiving messages from the plant to get into right relationship with the earth, but like, I don't know, I can't just like wrap up my life where I live and, do what maybe I feel called to do? Or like, what do you say to the people who are like feeling that stirring within themselves, but aren't like really knowing like what steps to take to like step into ecological leadership? I know that's a tricky question.
You want to jump in, Shayna?
Sure, yeah, I'll jump in. Really for me, like step one is like understanding the reciprocal relationship that we have with all of life. For me, it's like there's like steps, right, to take. And number one is like, I think even getting into the understanding that like, as we harvest anything, or as we like enter into new lands, that we are making offerings, you know, that we're understanding that like it's a privilege to be here. We didn't earn our anything. We were born and we were just provided with food and provided with water and provided with our breath. And so just even changing and shifting the mindset around like being, how do we reciprocate? Like, how do we say thank you for this life that we have? And so in a simple way of that, how that looks is like, if you learn about wild foraging, or if you learn about, even just entering into new lands or camping or visiting new lands, like really say thank you and leave some type of an offering there before you harvest, or before you especially even if you even if you're at your home, like wherever you're living, like if you haven't done it yet, like say hello to the land, like introduce yourself, like so for me that's like step one, but then step two is of course like, okay, well what can I do? Like this is kind of funny, but for me I'm like, I haven't done this yet, but it's a project that I'm wanting to take on in the next like month or two, which is like, we poop and pee in our drinking water. Like how absurd is that? First of all, so it's like, you can actually just get a bucket system with, you can actually put like a toilet seat on it, and you can have your own at home compost toilet. And you just, put the sawdust on top after you go to the bathroom and put the lid on and stick it outside and let it do its thing. And then you have soil after, a certain amount of time. And it's like, there's these little shifts you can make. I live in the city right now. I made a small compost pile outside, and, I have my garden, and there's just, this is step one, or step two rather. But yeah, that's what I would say. Just the very beginners. The very beginners. Yeah.
I love that. Like initially it's really just like an internal shift that needs to happen, and like the way that we choose to show up and engage. Awareness shifts, mindset shifts, shifting our perceptual field of awareness. I really appreciate that. Lev, what would you like to contribute to that question?
Yeah, well, my mentors in the ceremonial way of life, they always say, stay behind the medicine, stay behind it. And the same thing that what Shayna was saying, what Shayna was saying about it's part of a ceremony. When you eat medicine or you drink medicine, it's part of a ceremony. It's not something that we just do, at a party, or you're hanging out with people. You have to prepare for it. If you're going to go to a ceremony, you have to think for a week or a month beforehand. You got to think that ceremony is coming up. What am I going to put in my body? What is my diet going to be? What am I going to watch a movie, or going to watch a sitcom, or not? Or am I going to sit and get my body right, and tune up my mind, so that when I eat that medicine, I'm thinking in a way that's going to work with it. So that preparation, and being at the ceremony, it's a place of prayer. It's just like it's a church. It's a church, or if you grew up with a synagogue or a mosque, it's just like that. We sit on our knees. We sit on our knees, and then we ask for help. We say thank you, and we say, hey, we're humble people here. We're sitting on the earth. We're asking for your presence in our lives, for guidance. So, just like that, to be in a humble way about it. And then from there, to be really mindful that it's something, that I've seen for myself and for others, that it changes our life, and the prayers that we say in those places and in those ceremonies, they have an impact, they come true. You know, people heal from cancer. You know, people heal from addiction. You know, people meet their partners. I met my partner in a ceremony, you know, and like that. So it's, you know, and then things can be challenging as well. But so just that preparation, to think about going into a ceremony and then on the way out, you know, thinking about, well, what did I pray about? You know, what was I thinking about in that ceremony? What was shown to me? And am I just gonna walk out of there and just let it, like, oh, like a movie, like, oh, I think I forgot about it. I don't know what happened I kind of remember something, but, or am I gonna really remember it? And am I gonna say to myself, well, I asked for guidance and it showed me this. So what am I gonna do with it? Am I gonna follow through? Because if I don't follow through, then what's going to happen the next time I go in there? What's it going to tell me? It's going to tell me what I'm not going to give you anything. I gave you something last time, and what did you do with it? So for me, it's like really humbling. Another one of my relatives, you know, a number of years ago, I saw him. I was having some challenges in my life. And it was after a ceremony that I had where I was praying for good things to happen. And he said, you know, sometimes you make a big prayer and it's way out in front of you, but then you have to clean things up in your life. You got to sort things out and untangle things and until they start flowing. So, you know, on a practical level, what does that mean? You know, for me, it has to do with, you know, like you were saying, food and water, you know, real simple, and exercise, you know, taking ownership of my own health, my energy. And then also just my physical space, you know, that's something in the ceremonial way. Everything looks beautiful and everything is clean. And it's not just supposed to be like that there, you know, like I have to make my bed. I have to keep my office nice. You know, to think about things in those ways. And then from there on the bigger macro levels, you know, the work that I do as a coach is about supporting people to make, you know, maybe track jumps. You know, it's like, here, I'm on this track, and, you know, this job is supporting me, or, you know, I'm in a particular, you know, line of work or business, and I see that there's friction with my values, perhaps. And so how do I shift so that, you know, the work that I do in the world, it's moving in the direction that I want the world to go, that it's building the future that I want for the children and the generations to come. And that's very challenging, like I said, in the overall systems that we have. But it is possible. And I think the first thing is actually, you know, journaling in some regard, is writing down what's real, giving yourself permission to be honest with yourself, you know, and you write it down, and then you can see it. It's not just swimming around in your head. You can say, whoa, this is what's really real for me. Like, this feels out of alignment, you know, whatever it is in your life. And then you can see it and you can say, whoa, all right, this is out of alignment. And how can I get support to navigate and find a path to create harmony.
Right. And it takes time and patience, you know, and just inviting people to listen, to remember that this, you know, these threads, when we get these messages and these downloads, that takes time to translate into our lives, and just to hold a lot of loving self-compassion, you know, like being there like you would your own best friend, and holding space for that process to evolve. I love what you said about stay behind the medicine. I've never heard anyone put it quite like that. And I feel like I immediately sort of got the essence of it. I kind of want you to like unpack it just like a little bit more around like that, stay behind the medicine. Like what would it look like, translate to if we weren't staying behind the medicine? What does that look like?
Well, I'm getting chills. It's like, don't get ahead of yourself, they say.
Yeah.
I'm in there. They say it to me. They say it to other people in there. Don't get ahead of yourself. Don't let the mind, and I'll just say this. It's also, especially for us Westerners, I'm academic, we're Western people, right? We didn't grow up in indigenous ways. So we need to teach our minds to slow down and to study. Actually, for me, studying is important. And I actually read I have this book here, the Tao Te Ching.
I love the
Right?
Tao Te
It's
Ching.
not from the medicine tradition, but it's good medicine for me. And I encourage everyone, because for me, it feels like it has that medicine of, don't get ahead of yourself, stay behind the medicine. And I think it has a lot to do with our ethics. Someone mentioned ethics and values. You know, what am I doing this for? What's this all about? I think all of us, myself included, I'm reminding myself when I say this right now. I get ahead of myself. I want things to manifest faster, but then when I slow down, I see that wasn't the point anyway. That wasn't the point. That it's it's important to go really slow. And I've heard the Dalai Lama, he says, there's so much to do, so we better go slow. It doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. What do you mean go slow? We have to go fast if there's so much to do. But when we go slow, then it can happen in a good way, for life.
I also love what you said too, Lev, about this. And you mentioned reciprocity too. And, I think that from that Western mind and that Western perspective, there is such a strong tendency to see people showing up at the altar and be like, give this to me, please. Like, I need this. And, asking and taking. And that is like, if we, first of all, when we look at like the sustainability situation of some of the plant medicines we're looking at, that supply and demand is a very real issue right now. And that we have a huge responsibility. If we are showing up at the altar to work with peyote, for example, it's a disservice to the plant medicines to not integrate what we're receiving as a way to reciprocate back out into the world. As a way to allow this, like, okay, yes, I'm going to be honored to receive something from these plant medicines. And then actually, like, as a way to reciprocate, I then can step out and offer whatever is coming through me as that channel of allowing energy to flow through me and out into the world, which is so, for me, synonymous with the path of the Bodhisattva. It's such a, like, my companion guide for working with plant medicines. And you just said that Tao Te Ching, I love that book as well. Eastern philosophy is such a valuable roadmap for a lot of people. So yeah, I'm curious, where we might want to take this conversation. Is there anything else that you want to riff off of this, Shayna? Just a couple of threads here. Yeah,
definitely.
Okay.
It's funny. I mentioned in my introduction that I'm also a hip hop artist, and I have a song that really talks about like staying behind the prayer and really staying accountable to what it is that you're asking for and what it is that you're putting out there. It's called Relations. And sometimes when I do these talks, I'll like also do like music, but I'm not going to throw that in there at this moment. But
are you sure? I would love that.
It's like
do you
a
feel
whole
called?
thing. I have to set up my mic, and I mean I can do like a like a acapella thing if you want. A little bit.
I think that would be great. And I also feature a song at the end of every episode of the Psychedelic Leadership Podcast. So send me your music, girl. I would love to feature you.
So it goes like, get right behind that. I get right behind that. I get right behind that. I get right behind that. Follow it, see where it goes. Stay true, stay on the road. Make your offering, reciprocal feeling. Let it sing, let your heart ring. Be in right relation, good vibration. Life is sweet, all that water brings. So much to be thankful for. Focus on the prayer, water, wind, fire, air. Holy Creator, Mother Earth, Father Sky, walk with you side by side. Holy Creator, Mother Earth, Father Sky, walk with you side by side. Holy Creator, Mother Earth, Father Sky, walk with you side by side. Holy Creator, Mother Earth, Father Sky, walk with you side by side. Always ask permission, only take what you need. It's time to flip the script of this capitalist greed. Pay her close attention, spread around the seeds. Voices to the marginalized, empowerment to lead. Feed the holy with your tears, beautiful words and poetry. Listen and respect of all living beings. I came here to remind you, you are of the earth. The more we reconnect, the more we find our worth. There's more to the song, but I'll leave it at that. So you can find me on Spotify, Sister Stone. That song's called Relations. But I just want to like add something really quick to what to riff off of what Lev was saying, because you know, I think part of what is learned, you know, I think we're referring to these teepee ceremonies, which not everyone might be familiar with, but it's like, I think that's like what we share in common. That's been a part of our paths. And you know, for me, you know, what you were sharing, just the word that really comes to mind is like responsibility and accountability, you know, and discipline. And those are really three really big things that like being in these ceremonies has taught me, and how that relates to like leadership and taking ownership for our resources, taking ownership for how, you know, how we show up on a day-to-day basis, and be in that reciprocal relationship to like understand how we can, you know, we're always get, you know, the whole input and output thing of life, you know, everything gives, everything receives, you know, and that's like my whole thing. And that's the thing I work on with my clients a lot as well, is like, everything's about giving and receiving. So how are we in relationship to that process of giving and receiving, you know, and are we able to receive? Are we able to give? And, you know, in every aspect of our life, especially in relationship to how we care for the earth, it's like, you know, being disciplined and accountable and responsible are really important things when we're showing up to be in service, you know, and when we think about like how it is that we're, you know, taking care of our own lives and taking care of the lives of all living beings in all of life. And so I think I'm thankful for that as far as what I've, you know, received from my elders. And you know, I'll just close this little segment here and just say, you know, my elders have also told me that it's like how you show up in there is how you show up in your life, you know, and similar to what, you know, Lev was saying about like how he takes care of his room and, you know, keeps things tidy and things. It's like, you know, in these ways we're kind of taught that to like show how you show up in there. If you're like, not if you're sitting up all night and you're present and you're on your knees, and even though it's really hard, it's like 12 hours of sitting on your knees and being present and focusing. And so it's like how that has primed me to be able to show up in the face of like the world that we're living in, to be like present, aware, and tidy and focused and available for life, you know, and available to be in service like that. And I would not be who I am today without these, you know, these precious lessons from that I've learned through ceremony.
Yeah, I feel like it's warrior training. You know, I feel like that's so essentially what it is. And that's the rites of passage. And I feel like for people who feel the call, you know, I had the opportunity to interview Dennis McKenna for episode number 3 of the podcast. And he says, you know, plant medicines are the neurotransmitters of the Gaian mind, inviting us to wake up. You know, and I feel like the people who feel the call, it's like they're shaping us. These plant medicines are like literally forging us into stronger human beings so that we're strong enough to hold space for this transition. You know, the rug is being pulled for so many people right now. And I feel like this is like the resilience training. This is like, how do we show up to foster emotional, mental, physical resilience so that we can hold space for this larger transition that's happening on the planet right now. And when you said the word responsibility, I was like, oh yes, responsibility, our ability to respond, to show up, to take action, and to hold our center through that place of action, from that integral alignment. And there's just so much good stuff here. I love meeting you both. First of all, it's like, this is so great. We're in so many similar wavelengths. I'm curious, like, what other modalities you guys weave together with the work that you do. I do a lot of somatic embodiment with the leaders I work with. I work a lot with like CEOs and executives and people who are like doing big things in the planet. And I weave together microdosing with the work I do with somatic embodiment, like embodied leadership. Are you guys weaving together other like modalities, frameworks with the work that you do? I'd love to, I'm so curious to know where you go with your clients.
Yeah, can I jump in?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I'll be brief because this is so I actually I've been training with the Animas Valley Institute for a few years, and basically what we do and what I do with my clients is we work with aspects of the psyche to dialogue with the natural world. So we take and we work with the 4 directions essentially to work with aspects and facets of our wholeness. And so, there's so, and, this is like we're riding on the edge of rites of passage and vision quest type of work, to be able to create spaces for people to go out into nature and really learn about themselves, learn about who they are, learn about, their connection to the earth, and learn about their soul, and why they're here, essentially. So for me, a lot of the work that I weave in, like I do business coaching too, but it's like, at the foundation of it, it's important to feel that belonging. And so these modalities like deep nature connection work that I've learned from, Bill Plotkin, and Animas Valley, and also have worked with the Rites of Passage Journeys organization as well, and have trained with Joanna Macy and her work that reconnects, which is deeply, when you said responsibility, she talks about that, like our response, our ability to respond, and so the grief work that comes with our ability to respond to the world is like sitting in circle and doing council work and clearing out and being able to create that strong, resilient mycelial network between human beings to be able to show up in these times with a strength of community as well. And so I do a lot of council work as well and teach people how to facilitate those types of spaces, because I feel like that is just as important as like earth work, because it's creating that foundation for social and ecological change.
Oh, do you know Gigi's work too? The Way of Council?
Yes.
Do you know that? Yeah, I'm just finishing the book for the second time. I really love that book. Highly recommend it for anyone listening. Totally. Oh, awesome. That's so amazing, the work that you're doing. I'd love to connect more and get to know you more off of this call too. But I'm so curious to know some of the work that you're doing. Yes. And it also gives people like listening a little bit of an idea of some of the work that you're offering.
Yeah. Thank you, Shayna. That's really inspiring having you share all that. For me, sound healing has been a really central part of my own journey as well, integrating ceremonies and then sound, and simply working with the voice, humming and toning. So I always start one-on-one coaching sessions with sound, and especially doing group work using sound. It gets us there really quick to that heart space, into the body. And then also the deep nature connection through something I call medicine walks. So it's something you can do in an hour and even in 5 minutes, or a number of hours, a half day. But to really, it's about bringing your questions, your everyday life questions. What's the question that's in my life right now, and asking the intelligence of nature, and then allowing nature to support, and then to bring it back. And that pattern of, having a question or having a longing, and going out and doing something on your own in nature and coming back and sharing the story. That's really what the template of, you know, our ancestors in all ways, all cultures. That's how they did it. You leave what's familiar, you have an experience of the unknown, and then you come back. So you can do that in a really short way, even just 5 minutes of silence, because that silence is the unknown also. But I was just inspired. I just wanted to do a quick, I wanted to do a quick screen share. I don't know who's the host now, but if someone could allow me to do that. If not,
can you? Here, let me see.
I just tried. I don't know who the host is. I think Anya is the host.
Oh, here we go. Who can share all participants, all panelists? There you go. Is that right? Can you see it now?
All right, cool. Thank you. Yeah, so
okay.
I just wanted to share something I'm doing on a community-wide basis. This is my organization, Alliance for a Viable Future. And we're observing Indigenous Peoples Day. We're not the creators of it, but part of this responsibility that we're talking about, bringing this awareness that we're so grateful for out into the world. That Indigenous Peoples Day, there's a movement over the last 5 years that, again, I wasn't even part of starting it, but I caught wind of it from relatives, and I thought, wow, that's what it is. That's really important. And what day is it? October 11th. It doesn't just happen to be Columbus Day. It was purposeful, right?
Mm-hmm.
Columbus Day is being transformed into Indigenous Peoples Day, and eventually I think it will be federally recognized. So last year, this is my granddad, Jake Singer, who's a Native American veteran, was in Vietnam, and he's a medicine man, and he was with us last year. We did a walk for Indigenous Peoples Day, and this year we're going to do it again, a little bit bigger. So these are just some pictures of us. And here we're on Mohican land here in the Berkshires, but the vision. So, if you're interested in doing that with us, allianceforaviablefuture.org, under projects, Indigenous Peoples Day, we're going to be facilitating, an interconnected, simultaneous ceremony all over the Northeast is where we're focused, but wherever you are, to be aware of it. Monday, October 11th this year. So that's an act that's personal, and it's community, and it brings together that connection of Indigenous rights and climate justice. That those things are intricately connected. And one of my elders who's helping me with this project, Michael Johnson, he's working with a ceremony that's been happening in Maine every year called Healing Turtle Island. And so that's part of climate justice, climate leadership and ecological leadership is healing the wounds. There's a lot of blood spilled on this North American continent, and Central and South America as well. And it's all connected. That's what I've learned in the ceremonial way of life. So when that change, when we can create ceremonies of reconciliation and ask for forgiveness, then other things change as well, that are more practical, like solar panels and energy systems and all those kinds of things. But so that's really important as a practice, as a modality, is cultural, community ceremony. That's not just for people who are on the medicine path, but to make it open.
Right. I really appreciate that. I think that is an interesting perspective too, as like a viewpoint onto ecological leadership, because I don't think that everyone would like necessarily jump to that connection But I think that that's really valuable to point out. So thank you so much for that, Lev, and what an amazing project. And I would love to share it with my audience as well. So happy to help share that. Yeah, Shayna, do you have anything you'd like to close on?
I just want to say thank you for the work you're doing, Lev. That's really beautiful. And yeah, I would like quickly just like to tie that in, because I think that, you know, in my experience with plant medicines and psychedelics, the translation can be lost between, you know, the medicine and where it comes from and the original peoples who had held it. And there's a lot of like wounding and pain around colonization all around the world, you know, as he talked about, of the much blood being shed and spread. And it's like, how do we continue to follow the threads back to the origin of these medicines that we're working with, and really find a way to be not just consuming the medicine, but how do we support, uplift, become activists, you know, pay our reparations to the indigenous peoples that have originally held these sacred sacraments, you know. So yeah, I mean, for me, you know, as far as like my work goes, I actually just launched my nonprofit. And what I do is I run these programs called Earth-Rooted Leadership programs. And they are sort of like full spectrum training and how to facilitate, how to communicate with the earth, and how to launch your project or your business. And so my nonprofit is currently fundraising for BIPOC and LGBTQ scholarships, because that is something that's really central to my work, is diversity and uplifting the marginalized peoples. And so that the next program I have coming up is starting on April 26th, and it's 3 months. And then I have another one coming up in Michigan at the end of May. So I'll put some information to that, but there's a fund to be able to donate there if you're called to be supportive to marginalized folks, uplifting and reconnecting themselves to nature and getting their projects and businesses off the ground. So
Wow.
I'll leave it at
Awesome.
that. And just want to say thank you for this opportunity to be here.
Thank you. Yeah, awesome. So I'll just end on a couple of things too. And then if people want to keep this conversation going, I have to hop on another panel discussion, but there's a couple of links there in the chats. One project that I'm working on that I'm really excited about is an app development called Grow Medicine. And we're partnering with a bunch of organizations. And we want to make it common culture and common practice in Western culture to donate. It's like Patreon for plant medicine. So after you sit in medicine ceremony, whether it's teepee or grandmother ceremony or with iboga, you basically open the app, you click on the button of the image of the plant medicine you just consumed, and that money goes towards supporting a local indigenous community to replant. And that's one way that we feel like, you know, we can help support the sustainability of these plant medicines. And yeah, I also have a 3-month program coming up called Microdosing Mastermind, also for entrepreneurs who want to deepen their microdosing practice and also get some big visions off the ground. And all of this also is, my home base is livefreelaurid.com, and my podcast is the Psychedelic Leadership Podcast. Would love to have you guys on as guests. Would love to keep this conversation going. Love the work that you're doing. Love what you stand for. Love your mission on this planet. If there's any way that I can support you, please let me know. I would be honored to uplift your platforms in any way that I can. And just, you're beautiful human beings with really powerful messages. So just blessing so much of your path and all the work that you're doing, and just all the wind in your sails to support you with ease and grace, and allowing the path before you to be easy, you know, and open and clear channels to be bringing your work through. So thank you so much for the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you to each and every one of you who was here and offering your kind attention.
Yeah, and I think we should just say a big thank you to Mount Tam Psychedelic Integration. Like, thank you so much to Daniel for inviting all of us to partake in this conversation, and all the people. There's been so many people who have really helped put this whole thing together. So it's just been like an amazing project operation, and you know, they're bringing a lot to the table too. So yeah, let's be in touch, and anything I can do to support you, please let me know. Love the work you guys are doing. So if anyone wants to keep this conversation, so Lev and Shayna, are you guys clear on the link that you need to click to keep answering questions if people want to keep engaging with you? So yeah, maybe we should point that out before we close this chat so that you don't lose those links. There's the one that says Discord. If you go up, it's like Discord invite. And then that's the link to join the conversation after this talk is over. So if you guys can get that link, do you see it? I'll post it again. Okay, I'm going to post it to everyone. If you guys want to keep this conversation going, do you see it now? The last link that I just posted, Shayna and Lev. I also posted it to the attendees. I'm going to hop on for the next call, but it's a nice way if people want to drop in like more like intimate discussion. And Lev, there was a couple of, did you catch some of the things that people were, someone put their email in the chat for you?
No.
Okay, so it said, Lev, I recently moved from Sonoma County, California to Lenox, Massachusetts, when in the Bay Area. I belong to several integration groups. Don't know how to tap into this culture since in the Berkshire. Okay. I'd be grateful if you can get in touch with me. Do you see that message? Get in touch with me and perhaps orient me to this region with respect to plant medicines. My email is Roberta. Can you copy and paste that?
You just put it at the bottom?
Yeah. I'll just put it to the... Okay. And I'm sorry if we're going a little bit over, you guys. I just want to make sure that these connections get made before we hop off. Lev, I just sent it to you in a direct message.
Okay.
And Shayna, I would love to feature your music, that song. I will absolutely in one of my episodes.
I'll send you a link to the music. Great.
Okay, great. Anything else? There was somebody, Tracy from Australia. Okay, I feel like that feels clear. Definitely check out these guys on Instagram. Check out their websites. I'm really excited to see your program, Sister Stone Leadership. That's awesome, Shayna. Okay, cool. I'm looking through the chat. I don't see anyone else that had specific requests, so I'm going to end the conversation. Oh, great. allianceforviablefuture.org. And I will also put that on my website too, Lev and Lev Natan. Okay, great. And then thank you, Anya, so much. What a beautiful artwork you're creating. Just like so amazing. I'm always so impressed when people can do things like that.
I'm not sure if it was able to be seen because of not having multiple views, but I really appreciated getting to be here. And thank you guys.
It got for the second half. People got to see the second half of your painting. Okay, great. We're going to end the recording. Let's take a collective. Woohoo! All right. Aloha.
Ciao.